What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the fourth album by country rap artist Colt. Basically, this project is called Declaration of Independence, and it came out in the summer of 2012. The thing about this particular project is I'm starting to know Colt a little bit better as far as how pitch kind of particularly happens with it. He's one of the more notable country rap artists of these particular times, I'd have to say. Particularly, Colt came up in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, I'd have to say. But this is a more notable type one. This has one of his biggest hits on here, which is the Driving Around song with Jason Aldean. I'd have to say it's pretty good pitch. I reviewed a previous album by Colt, basically the one that was Thanks for Listening from 2014. Really enjoyed that one. It was chock full of hits on there. That one's a little bit more of an electro type one, just a little bit more electricity and club bounce on there. But this is definitely a pretty countryside type one. If you like Bubba Sparks, but you want it with like a more country rock and just Southern Fried type pitch, in particular, just in a more Heartland type aspect with a little bit more Kid Rock and ZZ Top thrown in within that relative pitch, I'd say this is a pretty good concept one to kind of get here. Definitely do appreciate this. Is another classic for Colt. I definitely would have to say it's got some bops on here. I would definitely say it's just not quite as urban in terms of like the club bouncers. Like one on here that's like Dancing While Intoxicated, that's kind of like that, but a lot of this is just a lot more outback and rural just within that pitch. It's kind of similar. Do you like the fashion? There's some guests on here that I don't know is full blown. I'd have to say it's full of folks I'm gonna have to probably look into as future goes along as far as that particular would kind of happen. I do like the definite appeal of this. I would definitely say for country rap, this is a pretty good classic here. There's been some ones that I've been reviewing recently, like Bubba Sparks' Deliverance, which I think for country rap was like a good foothold, and just Bubba Sparks' 2003 album Deliverance was a good foothold and notable type one that helped shapeshift some of those sounds in particular, I'd have to say. This is a pretty good rendition for the 2010s. It's definitely probably one of the more notable country rap albums of the 2010s, I have to say, and definitely a seminal album here, I would definitely feel like. I mean, up to that subgenre. I don't know how full blown these songs charted on like the commercial charts or just the regular Billboard and pitches like that, but I definitely think it kind of the pseudo blend of like country chart, kind of the pseudo blend of country charts with a little bit of country rap type charts, which I do think there is a country rap chart as far as they're particularly going to happen. I think some of these were probably around that particular time. It's pretty good pitch to kind of get this in particular. Definitely one I think has kind of underperformed just within the lighting point because country rap just within a certain aspect is kind of here and there. Just because country rap in terms of like a commercial aspect is kind of here and there. But I do definitely appreciate this particular album quite a bit. Like I said, this is going to get a pretty raving glitzy type score. Now keep in mind, I feel like this music is subjective to like the format of it. I kind of feel like just like with trap music or just like with new metal, some of those type pitches, and this is one that's a little bit more specific to like fans of the genre more so than just like a widespread kind of universal. I mean, I would say in the casual score, it's likely that I'll probably give it a pretty high score. The standard score of this album's going to get a pretty high score, but in terms of like the appeal of someone who's just used to a different subgenre, is not quite as full blown. Like if you're just pop centric or some of those type moments, or you just really like black metal or heavy metal or new metal, some of those type pitches, or trap music or like horrorcore, some of those type pitches, I would have to say in particular. It's just kind of the blend and the amalgamation, just being able to fuck with it within that particular vibe. But I do definitely feel like there's just one after the other, after the other in terms of hits, just within that aspect, especially for country rap. I definitely think it's an extremely notable type one to kind of get here. Do definitely like a lot of these as far as that pitching goes. There's plenty of good quality just for outback kind of sipping and pitches like that countryside gaze and some of those type pitches. Great, it's great countryside activity. So yeah, there's three singles off this particular album, I would have to say, and two of which charted pretty heavily. The two most popular songs off this album, according to Spotify, would be "Answer to No One" and "Driving Around Song." Particularly, I want to say "Driving Around Song" with Jason Aldean is basically one of Colt Ford's most popular songs. Period. I would have to say in terms of his commercial outbreak as far as that pitch going. I want to say he does have more albums past like the mid 2010s and pitches like that, but it seems like some of his sheer kind of felt like he was pretty boisterous in like the early 2010s. But I think he has a pretty steady string of projects. So we're gonna have to get to some more of these to see some of them. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that he fell off. It's just interesting that some of these type hits were huger back. He had some huge hits like this around this particular time, so that's a good concept. But yeah, "Answer to No One" is the first single. It's like a countryside fried kind of outback turn up of a song. I had to say in particular, it's like a good smoke something. I would definitely feel like type tune to kind of get just some Swisher Sweet type music just for outback type, fair rural typeness. I'd say, and it's like some summery pastime. I would definitely feel like pretty good cookout song. I'd say in particular, just some good kind of restless type music that I can get in particular. Some restless type music on here that just has a little bit more of like a rebel without a cause, this kind of middle fingers raised type aspect as far as that particular kind of goes along with it. Just some good pitches kind of have here. Do you like the affability behind it? Didn't realize that about Colt Ford, that he was kind of more, there would be some songs on here where he kind of had his feathers ruffled a little bit more. He was just a lot more modest. He was a lot more composed on his 2014 album, Thanks for Listening, but it's a pretty good pitch to kind of get some of this on here. Just I'd say, so that's a nice one. Good up tempo type one to kind of have for some good snap. Back is the second single. It's another nice one. This is a little bit more mellow type stuff, just more typical country type fare, less country rap, and just more typical country, I'd say, just especially 80s, 70s country, I'd suppose. This is a more vintage country stargazing type tune, I'd have to say in particular. It's like this is definitely some evening docile malaise, I would definitely feel like. And this is like some simple task wrap up, I would feel like, in a sense. And this is just kind of a settle in for the night type tune, I would have to say in particular. This real beleaguered type one, I'd have to say in particular, just the concept of just kind of some kickback, just got done with things. Really not so much of getting ready to get turned up for the night, but just kind of appreciating the sights, appreciating the sunset, some of those type pitches, maybe smoking like a swisher just within the outbacks and pitches like that simplistic kind of tone. Watch the news or football, something like that, go to sleep, some of those type fares, just relative kind of kickback type sense. Good work shift type song to kind of get here, just within the concept of maybe work was a real bitch today, just really kind of tired as fuck, just as far as that pitch would particularly kind of happen, just the aspect behind it. It's kind of a reminiscing type song, definitely good ruminating pitches like that, just kind of stuff like that, just some storytelling pitches like that as far as that kind of goes, but it's a pretty good one. Driving Around song's the third single. This is once again one of Colt Ford's biggest songs. I'd say definitely Summer Hazer as far as that pitch goes. This is like a similar fashion to Back. I would definitely feel like these two singles both have some more malaise type one, just typical kind of country type fare. This one's slightly more perky. Driving Around song is slightly more perky than Back. I'd have to say it's not quite as sleepy and just subdued, I'd have to say in particular, but this is like some evening cruise around. I would definitely feel like this is just another basic worship type song. Jason Aldean has a pretty good hook on here. I feel like there definitely need to be more folks that get hooks from Jason Aldean. I know Ludacris at least got a hook from Jason Aldean at one point, but definitely more folks, not just in like the country type sense, but also country rap type sense. It's more folks in general. Be an interesting concept to get Bubba Sparks to get a hook from Jason Aldean. But just real clever song. It's a real affable type one that just had a lot of appeal. The problem with this particular song is just how relatively relaxed. I feel like Jason Aldean would have been great for like a more, I mean, I like the countryside kind of stargazing typeness, like evening type fare, but it would have been nice for him to have been on a song like Answer to No One or one of those type ones, 50-50, some pitches like that. Some of these songs on here, Hugh Damn Right, one of those type ones would have been a great one for Jason Aldean. But Jason Aldean kind of, I mean, he's good between the up tempo, down tempo type songs. He can kind of go back and forth between some of those. But it's just kind of the fashion. This one's just a real malaise type one. Just maybe 2 or 3 steps more perky than Back, but they're both relatively turned down and just kind of, they're both relatively subdued and just more lazy kind of slog kind of work shift, just kind of wind down for the day type tunes. So, but Driving Around song is pretty notable. It is a distinct song and it does have some bite. And I do think it's probably one of Colt Ford's, even though I don't probably feel like it's one of his best in terms of the ferocity and definitely one to play it like a house party or pitches like that, something for some turn up. I do feel like it's a pretty standard. It's probably one of his gems just to have a note for commercial appeal. That's kind of the thing. But that's the thing about this particular album. So out of 15 songs on here, I wound up recommending to you 14. The only real song I don't recommend in some fashion is just Angels and Demons, which that's another kind of down tempo type one, but this one's just not quite as catchy. It's kind of a lengthier type one, almost 7 minutes as far as that particular kind of goes. Kind of one, it's kind of aspect of more down tempo type ruminating and stargazing just within a relatively lazy type sense. But some of these can kind of be, I feel like some of these can kind of be pulled off better than others, I would have to say, but that one's just an example one that I just didn't quite vibe with nearly as well. I kind of feel like maybe the production type fare, if it had been a little bit more like Back, a little bit more with the laziness, I feel like it's kind of similar to Back just within the sense, but I don't know, just composition of it was just not quite as noting as far as that particular kind of went. But yeah, every other song on here I recommend in some fashion. So definitely one of the most notable songs on here in terms of my opinion, in terms of something for turn up and just to get the ferocity of things going, would be Dancing While Intoxicated, DUI in other words. This is a pretty nice one. It's like a jazzy kind of spicy rural club hitter. I would definitely have to say it's like hooky and good commotion. I would feel like about this particular song. It's just a nice album kind of snap that this song particularly kind of has, and it's just a hot tune. And once again, the album that has more songs like this and the more ferocity, getting some dancing, getting the women's asses shaking, some pitches like that. I would definitely say there's plenty of those songs on Thanks for Listening from 2014. Interesting type pitch, but this is probably the more commercial album. I feel like even though there's more dance bounce and social type snap in terms of an urban sense on Thanks for Listening, I feel like this one in particular just has more kind of, this one's the more standard country type album in a more typical and kind of traditional type sense, I'd have to say in particular. This one's kind of trying to think of one that just had a little bit more urbanized type feel for like rap albums or pitches like that or rock albums, something like that. It's not coming to me as far as that pitch kind of goes, but I just look after it like this. Like I was saying, this is a traditional countryside type album. Good pitch for like some rural type tunes to kind of get in particular. It's a good concept, but another nice up tempo type one to kind of get on here is "Ain't Out of the Woods." It'll be "Ain't Out the Woods Yet." This is a nice one. It's like an out in the wind kind of countryside traverse of a song. I'd have to say in particular, it's like some supplies pickups. I would definitely feel like getting some swishers, getting some beers, getting like some 2 liters, some Chex Mix, things like that. Just things of those relative notations. Just hitting up like getting some beef jerky, some of those type of things in particular. I'd have to suppose this is definitely like a summery kind of feel good type song. So if you just got stuff to do, if you're just having some wanderlust, just kind of in Traverse type mode, get the errands wrapped up, pitches like that, get some bills paid, just have some times just out and about, just nice Traverse type one to kind of get here. Just kind of can also be one for getting ready to turn up for the night. This is kind of a primer for that sort of outing type fare, just getting like the keg and pitches like that for things that are going to happen later on the night. I kind of feel like this is more of like a conduit type. Kind of feel like this is more of like a conduit type song, more so than a full blown commotion of being at the shindig, like dancing while intoxicated or answer to no one. Definitely pretty good pitch though. All In is a pretty nice one. This is like a more rural kind of evening mid-paced turn up of a song, I'd have to say. It's like a slog kind of simmering gathering fun about this song, I'd have to say in particular. It's definitely a very countryside type one, more so than some of the ones I've listed thus far, minus maybe Back, I would have to say. This is definitely like an Outback ringer, I would feel like, and this just has an affable chorus about it. So this is kind of a countryside type one. Nice vanilla country rap type tune to kind of get in particular. Reminds me of something that Bubba Sparks would have done off of Deliverance, some of those type pitches. This one just has a little bit more. This one's a little bit more traditional country, just within that relative era. I mean, it's kind of 70s, 80s bound in like the chorus pitches like that, but it's just kind of the aspect that it does have like some good dance, jig, and jive about it, I have to say. So it's just kind of one. It's more Outback, but it's not necessarily like songs for squares as far as that particular kind of goes. Not to say that homeliness is square like, but it's just kind of this one's just a little bit more riveting. Just has like the bite about it in like a mid-pace sense. Something there. So Lucky's another nice one. This is like a bopping kind of day commerce and evening excitement of a song, I'd have to say. The song has a social feel good. The song is like a social feel good and kind of cut loose type song, I'd have to say in particular. Definitely like a have a brew, and this is definitely like a have a brew type song, I'd have to say. Get some drinks in your system. This song's pretty radio ready. So I feel like for day outing type fare, date night pitches like that, as far as that particular kind of goes, just some good concepts, just kind of have some thrills in your system as far as that particular kind of goes. Just the exhilaration, just being out and about, and just kind of once again some wanderlust just in particular is kind of within the outing snap of some of these type things. It's kind of a social type tune to have on. It's kind of a social snap of a song to kind of have in particular for some of this. A little bit more, not quite as tipsy as Dancing While Intoxicated, some of those type pitches, but also a little bit more riveting and just kind of more up tempo and jivey than like All In, some of those type ones I've had to say. But it's also not quite as Traverse like as Ain't Out the Woods Yet. So it's a good concept. But another nice one on here is It's All. This is like a countryside getting ready to get turnt type tune, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a thrilling and kind of exhilarating type song, I would definitely feel like. And this is just a finish up workshift and kind of switch to flip mode type tune, I would have to say. This is definitely one that's probably similar to Answer to No One. I do like the fact that there's some workshift type songs on here to kind of get some of that aspects. Pretty similar to Ain't Out the Woods Yet, I'd have to say. This one's kind of a little bit more of like excitement more so than just activities being done. I feel like Ain't Out the Woods Yet would probably be something for like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock p.m. This was more 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Just kind of finishing up those last tasks, getting ready for the excitement of things. You Damn Right's a pretty nice one as well. It's like a gnarled kind of southern rock, and I would definitely feel like it's pretty similar to Answer to No One. I would definitely have to say, and this is like a nice pounder to get crunk to. I would definitely feel like this is a pretty good venue hit. So there are some ones on here for night bars. There are some ones out here for some rural bar hopping pitches like that. Just good overall pool halls, some of those type pitches, just some pub crawls and things like that, just to kind of get in particular. It's not as full blown. I feel like the dance club, nightclub type songs are not on here in full display, just within that relative aspects. A little bit more residential, or at least rural residential within that sense. But there are some ones on here like You Damn Night, a little bit of like, I'd probably say It's All, some of those type ones. It's a pretty good pitch, but I do like that one. Just kind of a pounder, pretty similar to Answer to No One. Once again, some of those type ones. It's All, some of those type ones kind of do that. There are some pounding type ones. I do like some of these heavy hitters type on here. I feel like Answer to No One, Ain't Out the Woods Yet, It's All, You Damn Right. These are some up tempo type ones. So it's definitely good that he has some restless type ones just to kind of get the bravado going. Speaking of some of that bravado, 50/50 is another one that's kind of like that. It's like a rumbling, kind of restless summer heat of a song, I'd have to say in particular. It's like some good turn ups, pretty similar to Answer to No One. Once again, there's plenty of songs on here that kind of have that riveting type poundiness, just with some good riffing. So just with some good riffing southern rock, I'd have to say in particular. And this is like a good countryside kind of day outing throughout, I'd have to say in particular. So this is a pretty raw type song, definitely like the energy of this particular one. It's kind of like a Southern Fried version of something like Tupac's Ambitions as a ride of some of those type ones. It's kind of more this ruffle type one to kind of get here. Definitely restless type tune. It's interesting kind of get Colt forward within this relative pitch just because the amount of music I've listened to him by is just a little bit more of like an Apple type one for it's a little bit more of a rugged type one for some turn up on here just in particular as far as that kind of goes. Do you like some of these? Just like the concept. Happy in Hell is pretty nice one. There are some lady songs on here just within a countryside gazing type sense. Just some good rural date night type tones as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it. Some ones on here are like, I feel like All My Tomorrows, Happy in Hell, and Way Too Early are some good concepts of some of those. But basically, Happy in Hell is a nice one. It's like a glazed kind of brooding, ruminating type song, I'd have to say. Nice Ladies Hazer, I would definitely feel like. This is an afterthought song. I would definitely have to say just kind of smoke a little bit, pitches like that. I'd have to say it's just kind of some Outback Dredge. So this is kind of some just evening appreciation as far as that particular kind of goes, or maybe not appreciation, but just kind of the dredge of it is just contemplation as far as that particular kind of happens with it. Just kind of the concept of just some workshift type afterthoughts. Good concept is girl problems as far as that particular kind of goes. Another one like that is All My Tomorrows. This is a pretty nice one. It's like a peppy kind of evening step out of a song and noise. I would definitely have to feel like it's like a summer stretcher. Pretty nice one for that. It's like some countryside appreciation. I would definitely have to feel like pretty nice ladies song to kind of get for like some countryside appreciation. Just day after hours activity, I'd have to say, and this is another good smoke type one to kind of have. This evening side kind of commotion with ladies as far as that pitch kind of happens with it. Just some good concepts there just to kind of be able to have just kind of peppy summer hazer of a step out type tune. I would definitely, I suppose, pretty nice one. Good concepts here just to be able to have some of these. Another one like that is Way Too Early. Pretty good pitch for this one. It's like a lazy kind of simmering evening dredge of a song I had to say in particular. It's like some ladies kind of countryside kickback. I would feel like pretty similar to like All My Tomorrows, same sort of pitch within these two type songs I'd have to say. It's like a vanilla kind of late kindling out, I would have to say in particular. So it's just a good concept. This is another one that kind of has some yearning and pastiming for like the appreciation and just like the times and taking it slow pitches like that. I have to say pretty similar in fashion like the song Back, I would have to say. It's kind of more of an appreciative type one to kind of get on here. Pretty good nice summer malaise and slog type feeling as far as I would kind of go along with it. So it's a pretty good highlight in like a lazy type sense I'd have to suppose. It's some good day after hours wind down. And I would say another highlight on here would be Room at the Bar. Good concept for this one. It's like a nice daytime bar hopping type tune, I would have to say in particular. This is like a nice daytime bar hopping glitz of a song, I'd have to say in particular. Very nice concept for that. It's like a social and kind of festive crunk. It's definitely like a social and kind of festive crunk action of a song, I would have to say on particular. And this is definitely like some offhanded social and festive crunk action, I would have to say in particular. Just do appreciate the concept of that. And it's like a typical kind of summer day, I would have to say. So it's just kind of a lazy type one to kind of get in particular on here, where it's kind of a song that you're going to get pretty tore up to and fucked. This is definitely a song you're going to get pretty tore up to and fucked up as far as that particular pitch kind of happens, but it's just kind of offhand and just in the approach as to how it kind of happens. Not quite in your face as ferocious with like the bite, like a pounding bass and things like that. Just the aspect, it's like a blitzkrieg kind of beats. It's kind of more low key type one, just basic kind of one ear system just for like some day haze. And I do like the concept of this being like some daytime bar hopping as far as that pitch fan goes. Being at a bar at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock p.m. It's kind of more simmering, sun is out, hot day type stuff as far as I would particularly kind of go. Like some of the folks on these particular songs. So there's a lot of guests on this particular album. Just to say that there's plenty of these folks on here. Don't really know all of them as full blown, but I had to say once again, some of these folks would be interesting to kind of look up as far as that kind of goes. It's a good conduit to kind of find some more country rock and country rap as far as that particularly kind of happens. Dope enough concepts. But yeah, I look after it just being able to say, so this album gets a 10 out of 10. I'm going to go ahead and give the social score of this album like a 10 out of 10 also. Now that's subjective just because I feel like you have to be into country rap just within that relative sense. It's not like a commercial kind of conduit as far as saying if you don't know country or country rap that well, that's just going to be like the plug that's going to get you full blown into it just within that explosive sense of just having the night fair and kind of the blitz type activity as far as that particularly kind of happen with it. But I do feel like Thanks for Listening it has a little bit better job of trying to have some of that commercial kind of more of like a gateway type album that kind of does that. This one's a little bit more traditional in like a country rap, country rock type sense. Just within the activity, having some of the affable type charm behind it. But it's definitely, I don't want to say it's hardcore, but it's just kind of in the sense this is kind of more in if you know type territory. It's just not as much of a gateway type album, but it is pretty good concept. I do feel like this is a classic here. I'll give it a 10 out of 10 just within that aspect because the social bops are on here. There's some good date afternoon type songs for ladies fair just within a countryside type sense, some rural type tunes for that, some daytime bar hopping, some ones like that, some good evening appreciation, some wind down from work shift, whether you're going home for the night or getting ready to turn up for the night, some good moments for that, some Travers type ones, some summer heat, some good singles, some good riffage and production type fare on here, some pitches like that for just some good energy and just get you gnarled up and riled pretty quickly, I'd say, and some good brew sipping and just overall countryside stargazing pitches like that. So it's a good amalgamation of things, country and rural living. In terms of the future, like Colt Ford put out an album in the spring of 2023. So there's some more of these albums I'm going to have to get to in particular. I do want to review. There's like an album called like Chicken and Biscuits or something like that. I definitely want to review that one. There's an album that came out in 2011, some other type ones to kind of get around. He's dropped a number of albums, so I'm going to get to some of these, find some more of his bigger hits. I would almost have to say that this might be his most commercial album, despite the fact that I said that this is not a gateway album in terms of like a country type sense. In terms of like a country type sense, this might be one of his biggest in terms of that particular niche of format. I'd have to say it was this kind of concept. I feel like Thanks for Listening is probably the more widespread type one in terms of like a more conduit type project, I'd say. But both of these are a good 1-2 punch to kind of get here. I'm just questioning if he does have more widespread type hits just within those pitches, I'd say. So it's a good concept. It'll be interesting to kind of find out. This is basically like a pseudo. This is definitely like a country classic and a country rap type classic, I'd have to say in particular, and definitely a seminal kind of 2010s, just overall urban to seminal kind of 2010s rural album, I'd have to say.